everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Intercâmbio Linguístico. And today we have the pleasure and the honor of interviewing an outstanding professional and a great friend of mine, Cecilia Nobre. Hey, Cecilia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Glad to have you here. So I have the short version of Cecilia's bio because it's very extensive. Cecilia is a PhD candidate in applied linguistics at the University of Warwick with 20 years of teaching experience in Brazil, Turkey, and the UK. She's also a certified Deep TESOL and Cert TESOL, Trinity, and CELTA trainer. She has spent the last 5 years in teacher training and holds a master's in ELT from Warwick. She co-authored the book Using Video to Support Teacher Reflection and Development in ELT. Thank you very much, Cecilia.
Thank you.
Once again. And who's going to start by asking you a question?
Okay. Cecilia, you have extensive experience in language teaching and teacher training. Could you tell us how you began your career?
Ooh, long time ago. So back in the day, well, actually, yeah, it was a long time ago. I started teaching in 1999, in the 90s. 1999, when I was in my second year of university, I studied at UFRJ, and at UFRJ, there is a course for communities. I think they still have this called CLAC, where the university students teach the communities, the community, and that's how I started. I was 19 at the time, and then I worked in several language schools, cultura inglesa, business English schools, and whatnot. So that's how I started in Rio.
And how was the transition from being a teacher to a teacher trainer?
Yeah, it was. I think it was natural. It was smooth for me. I've always wanted to work with teachers, and about 5-6 years ago, I think I delivered my first talk for the Brass TESOL. And that's how I started. I delivered a few talks and workshops for Brass TESOL and the Brass TESOL in Rio as well. Then I started giving workshops online as well, and that's how I got started. But I actually felt the most confident after I finished my master's. I really felt that, okay, now I am a teacher trainer. I felt, because I could study, I could delve into research and methodology. I could study more SLA, second language acquisition issues. And because my specialism was in teacher education, I felt really confident. That's why I usually say I became a teacher trainer in 2018 when I finished my master's.
Officially, right?
Officially, yes, officially. And
Cecilia,
then that led to becoming a teacher trainer for Trinity. So I was invited to train teachers at the Cert TESOL through Cultura Inglesa Duque de Caxias. And more recently, I became a CELTA certified trainer here in the UK. But because of that previous experience as a Trinity tutor, that really helped me become a CELTA trainer and do the short route for becoming a CELTA trainer, because there are different routes. There's the longer one where you have to attend a full-time CELTA course, and the shorter one where if you have experience in other training pathways. You can do a shorter one, in which you have to attend 3 full days of a CELTA course. So that's the one I did.
That's nice. I didn't know about that. So basically, there are 2 options then: the shorter one and the longer one.
Yes, yeah. You don't choose it, though. You don't choose it. So Cambridge tells you which one is the most suitable for you based on your experience. Yeah, exactly. So I was hoping to do the shorter one, but I had to wait for Cambridge to tell me which one I had to do, which pathway I had to do.
Great.
Nice. Cecilia, you have also noticed that you have a very interesting international experience as well. You've taught in Brazil, Turkey, and the UK. What would you say are the main differences in teaching in these places? Right.
Well, I there's a parenthesis there. I haven't taught in Brazil since 2016, but of course I remember teaching in Brazil. I also have Brazilian students, private Brazilian students, where I teach online. Yeah, there are some differences, although I have taught in different areas. For instance, in Turkey, I taught EAP, English for academic purposes. So I taught at a private university there. Here in the UK, I've had so far the similar experience teaching EAP, but also teaching general English, let's say. And in Brazil, I taught English for different purposes: general English, travel English. I would say, yeah, there are a few differences. I would say that in Turkey, for example, where I taught EAP at a private university, most of my, 99% of my students were Turkish. There weren't so many international students at the university, although there were a few, especially from the Middle East. So I had a few students, but most of them were Turkish. And to teach them, I mean, when they go to university, they have to attend this in-sessional courses before they actually start in their own departments, right? So engineering, law. So before, they need to reach, at least at the university where I worked, they need to reach a B2 level, a minimum B2 level, to be able to start their degree. So I felt that students were not really ready. And that's not some kind of criticism, please. It's just some observations that I've made. Most students, they were 18, in their early 20s, 18, 19, 20, 21 maximum. And they didn't have a very advanced level of English. I taught A2 students, for example. It was a huge challenge. I loved it, but it was a huge challenge. I had to use Google Translator all the time. They helped me with the English as well, because it was difficult to get my message across in the language, in English, because I could not speak Turkish to them, right? So I had to speak English all the time to A2 learners. And I thought that most of them were quite immature in terms of learning English. I don't know if it was their first time learning English, or if they had previous experience before in high school, for instance. So sometimes I felt really, am I teaching young adults, or am I teaching teenagers? Because sometimes it felt as if I was teaching teenagers, 14, 15-year-olds. But it was a great experience. Back in Brazil, I had different types of students. I taught different levels. I focused on adult students in Brazil. This is the type of students that I like the most. Adult students. And from my experience, they have had different learning experiences before coming to me to study, or before going to another course. So they usually jump from course to course. I think you know that very well, right, guys? They jump from course to course, from private teachers to another private teacher. So I think they know more about what they want to do. They have a stronger motivation in terms of learning English. That's from my from my understanding, from my experience. Maybe I'm wrong. And students here, because, well, I live in Birmingham, which is the second biggest city in the UK. So there is a huge appeal to come to Birmingham, even though we're not London. But there's a big appeal because it's the second biggest city. It's quite central in terms of the country, so it's easy to commute to the north of the country, to the south, and it's somewhat cheaper than London. So there are many international students here. So I've had students from Colombia, from Saudi Arabia, from even from Brazil as well. Brazil, different everywhere, basically European students. And I feel that they come to the UK to be immersed in the language, but also to be immersed in the culture as well. So they like coming here, but they tend to get together to their own compatriots, I feel. So which is something I tend to tell them, to try to open their horizons, try to make friends with people from different nationalities. So this is from my observation so far, and that's from the language school where I work. But I also taught online, and most of my students were from China. There are many Chinese students here. And the EAP that I taught here in the UK, it was very different from EAP I taught in Turkey, because when I taught in Turkey, I thought that I was teaching more like the 4 skills, and it was more focused on general English, really, on grammar. They had to learn the grammar. They had to learn, reported speech and so. But the EAP, that the course where I taught here, they really focus on the academic skills, how to write an essay, how to be critical, how to identify fake news, for example, what is academic integrity, things like that my students back in Turkey have not seen. So I felt that here is really academic English and academic skills. But back in Turkey, it's more preparing students to be able to navigate in their courses smoothly, not so much focusing on academic English, although they sell that idea, but I wouldn't say it's so.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Cecilia, let's swap roles now. You have been talking so far about your experience as a teacher. Now let's talk a little bit about your experience as a student. You are pursuing a PhD in applied linguistics. Could you tell us about your experience as a student and what your research is all about?
Yeah, of course, yes. So I love being a student. I love